first session is going to be about 45 minutes. I'm going to talk about Service Manager and Orchestrator 2012 and the power that you get when you actually utilize those products together. The agenda, I'm going to quickly talk about delivering IT as a service and how System Center 2012 can enable that. I'm sure everybody's heard infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service, but I want to talk about this new concept. We're going to have a look at Orchestrator, introduce you to the product from any of you that haven't actually seen the product in use before. Talk about Runbooks and integration packs, which are what deliver you all this automation capability. Then we can have a look at Service Manager. I want to talk about how easily you can use this tool to integrate with the existing systems that you've got in your organizations now. Introduce you to the 5 key ITIL processes that are included with 2012. Cover off on the service catalog and the self-service portal. And then also talk about this new component to Service Manager called the System Center Data Warehouse and why that's so important. Finally, for anybody that has these tools, I'm going to really quickly touch on some of the things you need to think about for the upgrade process. And I want to talk about our approach to delivering service management engagements. So let's have a look at delivering IT as a service. So if we think about IT as a service, think of your end users or your business units within your organizations as your customers. And then think of your IT team as the actual service provider, because ultimately that's what we're doing. We're delivering IT services to our end users. So if we were to think of an IT as a service model, there's a few things that we need to do. We need to be able to deliver self-service capabilities to our end users, and we can do that with the app controller and service manager tools. We need to be able to actually deliver these services and automate the delivery of the services, and we can do that with Orchestrator and Service Manager. Then there's lifecycle that we need to manage. We need to be able to configure and deploy the solution and then operate and monitor the solutions as well. So Virtual Machine Manager, Ops Manager, Config Manager, and Data Protection Manager are going to deliver this capability. But the two we're focusing on in this session is Service Manager and Orchestrator. How many people have a Parlus? I know certainly one customer in the audience has a Parlus deployed in their environment. Has anybody else got any sort of automation tool that they're using today? Okay, well, hopefully by the end of the session you'll see the value that you can get out of Orchestrator and the cost savings that you'll be able to realize through automation. So Orchestrator, it's a process automation tool that simplifies data center management. And there's 3 key areas that the product focuses on. Firstly, integration, so integrating with your existing systems, optimizing your heterogeneous environments. But the power here is it's a really easy platform to extend, to connect your other systems together, and you'll see why as we get through the session. Delivers orchestration, so flexible process workflows. And Scott talked about the ability to quickly look at a runbook and see the exact steps that are completed as part of a process. And it's reliability across multiple tools because we can control the activities that are performed in your runbooks via the one console. And it delivers automation. So automation delivers efficiency. And of course, consistency comes with that as well. So no matter how well documented a process is, if you run that process over time, maybe 100 times, you're going to guarantee there's going to be a small amount of inconsistency between the delivery of those processes. And because you're automating, simple tasks that your IT staff might typically need to work on, it enables your staff to focus on things that are more important to your business, like innovation. So the power of the tool is through Runbooks. So Runbooks are just workflows, and they're made up of a series of activities that get us a desired outcome. So if you think of the activities, they're just simply steps that perform a specific action. And it could be something as simple as monitor the event log, monitor the file system for a particular file, read a file, run a command line, run a script, create a file. In fact, there's 82 standard activities included out of the box when you install Orchestrator. So you have access to these activities straight away. But it becomes even more powerful once we use these integration packs. So integration packs enable us to connect systems together. Microsoft develop integration packs, so there's integration packs for all of the System Center products, Config Manager, Ops Manager, Service Manager. But Microsoft also develop integration packs for Active Directory. They even develop one for VMware, so you can manage virtual machines using VMware via Orchestrator. But a number of third parties make them as well. And also communities, people in the community that develop these integration packs and can make them available for everybody to use. But if there's not one available for a product that you want to manage, there's the Orchestrator Integration Toolkit. Now this toolkit gives you documentation on the steps and how you need to actually go about building integration packs for systems that might not otherwise have an integration pack available. So how do we do it? We install the Orchestrator product, and there's a Runbook designer included. And the Runbook designer allows us to drag activities from our activities pane onto our workspace, and we can build out these workflows. But it also includes debugging capability. And you can see the image on the screen. When we're running it through the Runbook tester, each activity is performed one step at a time, and we can view the actual outcome of that activity's execution in the bottom window. So we can see if the Runbook is going to complete successfully when our users actually go to execute it, in the real world. And there's a number of ways that we can actually execute Runbooks. Firstly, via the web console. So we can make these Runbooks available to our users to go and request via the web console. Via the thick console or the Runbook designer, we can kick off Runbooks from within there. But with 2012, for anybody that has a Parlous now, in 2012 there's actually a web service available now. So with tools like Service Manager, we can connect to the web service and kick off the Runbooks. Or if you've got another tool in your environment, you can develop a solution to connect to that web service. And when it comes to execution of the Runbooks, they're all performed via these action servers. So when we start off with a simple Orchestrator implementation, it might just be one action server. But as we add more Runbooks, or we start to execute the Runbooks more frequently and the load increases, we can just scale out the solution and add additional action servers as we need them. And all of our Runbooks are monitored and logged. So Scott talked about compliance. Now we can actually keep track of any time someone executes a Runbook and also have a look at what the status was of that Runbook execution. So let's take a look at the first demo where we're going to go through Runbook creation and actually executing it from the web console. Okay, so we're in the Runbook designer here, and what you can see is we've actually got a blank Runbook open at the moment, and you'll see the tab at the top called Add User to Group. On the right-hand side here, you'll see all the activities that are available to use as part of this Runbook. So I'll go up to the system group, and you'll see a number of activities within there. Things like monitor the event log, run a command, run a .NET script, send an SNMP trap. But then down the bottom, you can see I've actually imported some System Center Runbooks, and there's activities for Service Manager that are specific to Service Manager, like the ability to create an incident from a Runbook. But when I want to create a Runbook that I'm going to allow users to set some input, I need to go to the Runbook control, and I'm going to drag the activity initialized data onto my workspace. So this gives me the ability to actually set up some parameters that the user must pass to the Runbook before the Runbook can kick off. So I'm going to open it up, and I'll add two parameters. Because we're adding a user to a group using this Runbook, I'm going to add a username parameter and a group name parameter. So I've added those two parameters. Now that activity in the Runbook is complete. So all that's given me is a SAM account name for the username and a SAM account name for the group name, because that's typically what the user would enter in. So now I need to look them up. So I'm in the Active Directory integration pack, and I've grabbed the get group activity. I'm going to link them together so I know the sequence that they need to be completed in. I can come in and I can set some filters on that connection as well, so that we might have a particular result that needs to occur before we can continue on to the next step. Now I'll just pause it just here for one moment. You'll see here there's a configuration option there, and I've got in there AD connection. What I've done, when you import your integration pack, you actually need to define how you can connect to the system that we want to manage. So in the instance of Active Directory, we need to tell it the domain that we want to connect to, and a username and password that's going to have the required permissions to look up the objects or manipulate objects within AD as well. So I've configured that ahead of time. So I've gone and selected that right there. Now what I'm going to do is I've come to the filters option, and I need to look up that object based on a filter. So I'm going to say, go and get me a group from AD where the SAM account name equals the SAM account name the user entered on that first step in the Runbook. So you can see, because these activities are linked together, I can access data from previous steps within the same Runbook. So that would connect to AD, and it would get me the group because it's gone and said, find me a group with this SAM account name. Now I need to find the user in AD. So I'm going to grab the get user activity, drag it onto the workspace, and we're going to link that to the get group. So it's going to run after the get group activity completes successfully. I need to tell it how to connect to AD, and now I need to set a filter again. So I'm going to click add, I'm going to find SAM account name, So equals, and then I go subscribe to publish data, and I can look up properties from a previous step in the activity. So I drop the activity, drop-down box, click Start Runbook, and select username. Now we've got the group and we've got the user from AD within the runbook. So what I normally like to do now is actually just write some details out to the event log. So this helps during your troubleshooting because we can see that it executed and it found the objects I was hoping it would find. So I'm going to link that to the get user activity and we'll open it up. I'm going to enter the computer where I actually want that event log message to be written. And I'm going to put a message in there. So I'll set the username. I'm going to actually put user DN and group DN because the distinguished names are the attributes that we'll need when we actually add the user to a group. Now I'm going to subscribe to publish data, and for the user DN, it'll be the distinguished name that was returned from the get user activity. So you see the activity, I've selected get user, and these are all the properties that have been returned from Active Directory when I looked up that user. And the same for the group. Subscribe to publish data, change the activity to get group, and all the properties that were returned from AD when I looked up that group name. So now I've got the user, I've got the group, I've written some details to the event log, I need to add the user into the group. So I'll drag that, add user to group, which is an activity from the AD integration pack, and we link that. So you can see these two activities are actually going to run in parallel because they're not in sequence, there's parallel activities set. So for the add user to group, I've set my AD connection, and it's asked me for two properties, the user DN and the group DN. Again, I'll subscribe to that data that we collected when we ran those two activities. And click Finish. Now our runbook is built. Normally what I would do is I would run it through the runbook tester, and there's a runbook tester button on the top up in the toolbar. But I'm going to just check that in. So you can see there's a check-in option up the top there. So I'm going to check it in, and once I've checked it in, it'll be made available to users via the web console. So I'm just going to jump across to my domain controller, and the group we're going to use is test group. And I'll show you here that if I go to the members tab, there's nothing in there. So let's go and run it. So we'll open up the web console. Because I've only just checked in that runbook and the web console was already open, I need to refresh it to make sure that that new runbook appears. And we can control what users can see within the Orchestrator web console as well, based on security permissions. So I'll select Add User to Group, and I click the Start Runbook button, and it's asked me for those two parameters that we had added as part of the first activity in the runbook. I'm going to say username administrator and group name test group, select the server I want it to run on, and click Start. Now from a user's perspective, so the person actually initiating the request, they can come across to the Jobs tab and they'll see the status of their runbook actually running. It's got the hourglass up there at the moment, so it's actually still running. And then we'd either get a green tick if it was successful or a red cross if it had failed. So it's completed. I can come across to the runbook designer as well, and I'll show you that under the log history, we can see that that has successfully completed as well. So we've got that logging ability. We can open it up and see all the activities that have run as part of the runbook and their status. So I'll just quickly jump across to the event log now, and I'm going to show you that that event log message has written into the event log. And the final thing to show you is that the user's actually been added to the group. So I'll jump over to the DC and open that up. Okay. So you've seen in a couple of minutes we've made a fairly repetitive task available through the portal for our users to execute that's going to save our IT team hours and hours of effort just by making a single runbook. Okay. Does anybody have Service Manager 2010 deployed in their environment? One? There was one other guy who has as well that has just left the room. So that's two people that have, and that's what we see. Service Manager 2010 was Microsoft's first release of their service desk tool. I'm happy to say that 2012 has added a couple of new features that has really matured the product and makes it more compelling to deploy within your environment. So Service Manager 2012 is an integrated platform for orchestrating people, process, and technology. Now, when Microsoft decided they were going to develop a service desk tool, there was three key focus areas for the product. And this was the result of asking customers, what they wanted from a product. What were some of the pain points that they saw with their current service desk tool? So firstly, a tool that integrates easily within your existing environment. Who has a CMDB in their organisation where they can confidently say they can rely on the data that's contained within the CMDB? The challenge is with CMDBs is it's costly and complex. It's typically complex to get access to the right data sources to get the data that you need into your CMDB as configuration items. Microsoft has made that really easy with the integrated CMDB. So the entire solution is actually built around the CMDB. So you need to deploy that CMDB as part of the solution. But it's really easy to get all this data into the CMDB, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. Delivers IT process and workflow automation. And the integration with Ops Manager and the SAR Vision Live Maps edition gives us this service mapping capability. We can pull these service views that we build in Ops Manager into Service Manager as business services. Delivers efficiency. So we can deliver efficiency through the addition of the service catalog that's new to 2012 and the self-service portal. So the self-service portal has been enhanced to give your users access to the request offerings that are available via the service catalog. Delivers automated routing, so based on properties within your work items, it might be the classification category set on an incident, we can automatically route it to the right teams based on some logic that we put into the solution. And there's a knowledge base. You need a knowledge base to help your users service their own requests. It could be something as simple as a knowledge base article for configuring an Outlook signature. We want to make that available to our users. They can search the knowledge base and return those results. And finally, being able to align with your business, delivering reports that gives you that sort of intelligent information about your business to help make business decisions. Ensuring compliance with the risk and compliance management pack, and also helping you manage the life cycle of your assets. And we're not just talking about IT assets here. It could be motor vehicles, machinery, any asset in your environment where you want to manage the life cycle of that asset. We can do that through Service Manager. But the real power of the product is via the integration. So there's 4 key areas I just want to quickly focus on. The 5 key ITIL processes that are included, self-service and reporting capabilities, process automation, and of course the integration. Service Manager 2010 delivered incident change and problem management. With 2012, Microsoft have added in request fulfillment and release management as well. And the process automation. So we talked about that powerful CMDB with Service Manager and how the complete solution is built around that CMDB. All of your configuration items that you would typically expect in a CMDB are the same with Service Manager. But Service Manager saves the work items and all of your knowledge management articles as well to the CMDB. But the real power is through the integration, and the integration enables us to get all of this data as configuration items into the CMDB. Firstly, there's a connector for Active Directory, so we can get all of our users, groups, printers, and computer objects from AD back into the CMDB as configuration items. There's a number of connectors available for System Center. Firstly, there's a connector for Config Manager. Config Manager knows about our hardware and our software inventory that we've got deployed in our environment. Makes sense that we use that information and pull that back into the CMDB. There's 2 connectors for Ops Manager, an Ops Manager CI connector that'll get all of the discovered information from Ops Manager. You know, all of the databases that are running on our SQL servers, all the websites that are running on our IIS servers, pull all them back in as CIs as well. There's an alert connector for Ops Manager. So as Ops Manager identifies health or performance issues in our environment, we can automatically create incidents directly within Service Manager without any user intervention. There's 2 new connectors with 2012, one for Virtual Machine Manager, so we can get our host information, our virtual machines, our templates, all the objects within the library actually back into the CMDB as CIs. And there's an Orchestrator connector too, so we can now get runbook information back into the CMDB as well. And using Orchestrator, we can even connect to other tools in your environment and pull data from those tools and place it back into the CMDB as well. So we're doing all of this on a schedule, completely automated. As something changes in AD, the connector goes and updates the CI in the CMDB, completely automated. And there's self-service reporting. So we've got the portal, users can go and search the knowledge base, create incidents, initiate service requests. You can create incidents from an email client or your mobile phone as well. And there's reporting and data warehousing capabilities, and I'll demo that a little later on. A couple of quick slides on the ITIL processes, you know, the boring part of the product, I suppose, but When it comes to service management, these are key. We do need them. So there's a couple of common work item features that I just want to touch on. Firstly, when you install the product, you're going to get a number of standard templates and forms, but they might not be exactly what your organisation wants. Service Manager has the flexibility for us to be able to change them. We can add new fields to the forms, we can take fields away, we can make some mandatory and change the titles or things like that suit your organisation. We can build custom workflows and notification templates, again, to suit your organisation. And with all of these work items, we have the ability to link configuration items to the work items, files that you might have, images, business systems that might be affected, or even knowledge base articles that we've used to work towards a potential resolution. So before we jump into the Ops Manager and Incident Management integration demo, I'll just quickly cover off the Incident Management work item. When we're working in incident management, we can use this action list to keep track of exactly where we're up to with that work item. So when it comes to contacting a user, we can put in there a note that this particular analyst has contacted the user, so we can keep track of how we're going resolving these issues. There's service level objectives. We can measure how we're performing against our service level objectives. And we can automatically create incidents from a number of sources. Firstly, desired configuration management with config manager. So as we detect configuration drift, we can raise an incident. From alerts identified in Ops Manager, internal inbound email, self-service portal, or even via Orchestrator Runbooks. So let's have a look at the tight integration with Ops Manager. So we're in the Ops Manager console here, and I'm actually going to show you the SAR Vision Live Maps add-on as well, because we've created an application health dashboard, and we've created a couple of services that we're going to use to generate an alert. So we're going to come into the application health dashboard, and you'll see a number of services are built. And in a lot of organisations, particularly where we've deployed Ops Manager, we use these and have them up on large screens. So we've drilled into the Dinner Now application, and you'll see we've modelled out the application, the components that make up this application, so if we detect an alert, we can understand the true impact. So I'm going to jump across to the Dinner Now server, and this is just a .NET app running on IIS that we make available to users so that they can request food and order food online. I'm going to load it up and just show you that it is actually working, which is why the live maps are healthy. So I could put in some details, my American zip code, which is a long way for us, and search for some food. So I've stopped the website now in IIS. So Ops Manager should detect that that's in a critical state, because users won't be able to get to the application if the website's stopped. So I go back to the application health dashboard, and in a moment you'll see the Dinner Now health state icon change to critical. So it started flashing, which means it's just changed health state. I'll drill into that and we'll see that the default website is in a critical state. So now we'll have a look at the active alerts, and there'll be 3 alerts. There'll be one for the website, there'll be one for the live map view, and one for the health dashboard. So if I open up the default website first of all, what I want to show you here is that there's a ticket ID property that I'm sure many of you have seen in the past that we're going to automatically update once an incident is created in Service Manager for us. We'll come across to our Service Manager console here. We're in the Work Items workspace, and we'll click Incident Management and go to All Open Incidents. And you'll see in a moment that that incident's going to get automatically created for us. Now there's a bit of logic going on behind this as well. So we've got some routing rules and some workflows that are going to automatically populate some of the fields within this incident. So when I open it up, we'll see the title and the description get automatically populated from the title and the details of the Ops Manager alert. So you'll see there in sync. So the IIS website is unavailable. You'll see the classification category has automatically been set, because we said anytime this application becomes unhealthy, we know that it is this classification category. Software problems, web-based applications, Dinner Now app. Because this site generates us income, we've automatically set the impact and the urgency to high as well, because we need that resolved quickly to ensure we're continuing to make money. And using the routing rules, we've automatically routed it to the support group. So you can see it's automatically gone to our Tier 2 Dinner Now support group, and it was logged automatically by the Operations Manager product. The affected CI has automatically been populated as well, because we knew the alert was generated from the Dinner Now server. And using the power of the CMDB, we can double click on that and open up the configuration item details from the CMDB. You can see data that we've collected from Active Directory. Hardware and Software tab gives us details collected by Config Manager. And the Related Items tab shows us any other incidents that have perhaps been raised for that particular that particular CI. So you also see where I'm moving the mouse down the bottom here, we can see the alert details and the CI health state options there on the menu. We can click on them and it'll automatically load the Ops Manager Alert or the Ops Manager Health Explorer for that object using the Ops Manager Web Console. So it'll just load them out of the Web Console for us. Now we're going to go back to the actual alert itself and I'll show you that that ticket ID property, that now has the incident record from Service Manager automatically put back into that alert. So people working in the Ops Manager console can see that an incident's been created and related. So what we want to do now is we want to actually start that default website again. And we'll see that Ops Manager will detect that's healthy. It's going to close the alert. It's going to set the health state back to healthy. And it's going to automatically go and resolve the incident within Service Manager. So we see the alert has now been removed from the console. So if we go across the application views, the dashboard is still going to show it as being in an unhealthy state. And the reason that is because we've got a synthetic transaction recorded that tests some additional functionality of that website that only runs once every 5 minutes. So that'll take a little longer to reset back to healthy. But the critical thing here is seeing that the default website in a moment will change back to healthy. And then when we go back to Service Manager, we're going to see that the incident has moved from being active to being resolved. So I'll refresh that. It'll disappear out of all open incidents, and we'll go across to all incidents, and we'll see it, and we'll see that the status has changed to resolved. So that's completely automated. Now we can identify it, and even though it was resolved and Ops Manager managed closing the alert and Ops Manager managed closing the incident, it's really nice to know that it's been recorded so we can keep track of how many times we've had that issue. Excuse me. Two really quick slides on a couple of the other work items. Change and problem management, first of all. Change management includes all of your typical change models that you would expect with change management. Standard, major, minor, and emergency. But really, all of these are just workflows. So, Microsoft include a couple out of the box, but we can customize those workflows to suit your environment. We can get rid of all of those change models and add completely new change models if that's what your organization requires. And really all they are just review and manual activities anyway. So we might say as part of a change request, we need to have a review activity that requests approval before that change can be implemented. And then we have a series of manual activities that need to be completed before we can deem that change as completed. And these review activities can be approved from many different locations. They can be approved from the portal, they could be approved from the console, or they could be approved via email as well. Now, problem management. When we think of incident management, incidents all about getting an issue fixed quickly, fighting those fires. So as soon as we get that incident, we want to just get the service functioning again. If it's a website performing badly, we might just restart the service. That's not getting to the root cause. Sure, it might be fixing it temporarily, but we're not getting to the reason why it started to fail in the first place. So when we come across these incidents and we see a number of them that are similar, we create a problem from that. And the problem allows us to analyze the incidents and actually get to the root cause of why we had that problem in the first place. And a new feature with 2012 is when we create a problem, when we have all of these linked incidents, if we resolve the problem, we can automatically resolve all of the incidents as well. With 2010, we had to go and manually resolve every incident or use a script to do it. So it wasn't overly user-friendly. This makes it a lot more flexible. So release and request fulfillment, two new ITIL processes that have been included with 2012. So release management allows us just to schedule all of our change requests into a single release. 2010, we used to have to just create a parent change and have all of these changes linked in as child changes. Now we can actually have a proper release and schedule it and do all of the testing and record all that within the release. We can track our effort and cost. So when we define the release and we have all of our changes linked in, we can say how long we think it's going to take and how much it's going to actually cost the business to implement. And then we can actually put in how much it did cost us and how much effort it did take to complete. We can record the workflow. Now, request fulfillment is where we get all of this new service requesting capability. We can initiate the request from either the console, but mostly you're going to do it from the self-service portal so that users can do it via the service catalog that's available through the portal. It includes some really mature workflows, especially when we start to offload activities to Orchestrator and kick off Runbooks, and I'll show you that in the demo. And we can measure service level objectives as we did for incident management as well. So work items, ITIL processes, that's pretty dry, that's the boring part. But the real exciting part of Service Manager is the service catalog and the new self-service portal. Because even if you've got a service desk tool in your environment that you're happy with, there's real value in deploying Service Manager, be it just for the CMDB or the service catalog, so you can make request offerings available to our users to execute. So service catalog, there's a couple of key terms that I'm going to probably frequently use that I just want to make you aware of. Think of service offerings first of all. Service offerings are a way we can group our request offerings together. And request offerings are actual requests, so things that users can request. Add my user to a group, request some software, reset my password, things like that. And of course, we might make these request offerings available to our users, but we don't want them just to be able to automatically do everything. We might have a request offering that says rebuild my PC. Do we want our users just to click that accidentally? We might have an approval step in there that says, all right, I'm okay. The justification they've put in for rebuilding their PC makes sense. I'm going to allow them to do that. And it's just a matter of IT approving that request. And we can filter it as well. So we have a single service catalog. Using user roles, we can filter what the users can see in the service catalog. So we have IT staff can see IT-based services in the catalog as well as all the end user services, but our end users don't see IT services. So completely new self-service portal with 2012. And when you first open the self-service portal, as you can see in the image on the screen, it takes you straight into the service catalog and you can see the service offerings that are available. There's a searching capability in there, so users can search for self-help information and just search for your knowledge base articles. They can log and track their requests and their incidents to see the status. Particularly with the incidents, they want to know exactly what actions have been performed to work towards that resolution. And it's built on top of SharePoint 2010. You can use SharePoint Foundation 2010, but the performance point feature that gives you the ability to run reports directly out of the console, out of the self-service portal doesn't work. So you will lose that functionality. But if you've got an existing investment in SharePoint 2010, we can just add the web part across to your existing investment in SharePoint. So let's have a look at the demo. So what we're in here, we're in Orchestrator, and I've got a new runbook here that's going to add a user to a group. And it's got a few additional activities based on that first runbook we built, because I'm going to actually look up the service request that gets built in Service Manager, because I want to look up some additional properties. The start runbook has a couple of different parameters. We've got the runbook ID and the username. So I'm going to pass those properties from Service Manager across to Orchestrator when I kick off the runbook. And the other thing I want to point out here is the add user to a group is a PowerShell script this time. And the reason I did that, I could have used the activity from the AD integration pack, was just to show you that we can use PowerShell to do many activities that we might not be able to do due to the lack of an integration pack. So I'll go across to the DC, and I'm going to show you that test group that we're going to use doesn't have any members at the moment. So now I want to show you how we can, even though this is pre-built, I'll show you the things that we need. Firstly, the Orchestrator connector pulls in the runbooks. So I've told the Orchestrator connector to use a single folder in Orchestrator and get me every runbook from that. When I open up the add user to a group, you'll see the parameters from that runbook are there as well. So we can see there the runbook ID and the username that we must pass across to Orchestrator. Now we need two templates. So we firstly need a template for the runbook, and we need a template for the service request that we're going to build. Now the template for the service request is just the workflow. And within this workflow, we've got a review activity, and we're going to tell it to kick off the runbook in Orchestrator. So only 2 steps. So now we'll go into the service catalog view, and I'm going to click request offerings, and I'll show you the request offering. Now this is where we actually define what inputs we need from the user when they actually start the runbook, or start the request, sorry. So I'll open that one up. Because the values that we put into this actual request offering how we dynamically build the form that will be available to the user via the portal. So you can see we can set a title and a description. I've set the template, and the user prompts are what we're going to ask the user for. So I've got group name in there and query results. I'm going to return to the user all of the groups within our configuration management database that include the word test. So that's what my query says. And then I'm going to ask them for some justification. Why do they actually want to add their user to a group? Because I'm going to use that in the review activity so that the reviewer has some context around why they want to perform this request. Then in the map prompt section, we actually map that input from the user back to steps within our workflow. So there's a review activity, I pass the justification to that. And then the username, I pass across to the runbook execution. So the final thing we need to do is actually add that request offering to a service offering. So we'll go into, these ones are ones I already had pre-built, the AD services service offering. And then I'll go down to the request offering section, and you'll see that that request offering has been added into the service offering. So now that's available via the self-service portal in the service catalog to our end users. So if we go and open up the self-service portal, now the self-service portal is completely customizable. We can change the colors, we can change the titles, we can put organizational logos in there as well. So I'm coming down to the AD services service offering, and I'll open that up. Within here, I can have a description about that service offering, put some help articles in there as well. So it might say, you know, input from the user, what request offerings are available, how they actually use them. We'll click on the add my user to a group. It'll open up the details for that request offering, and again, that includes the title of the description. We could have some linked knowledge articles to that to tell the user what input they need, how long they should expect it to take. So now I've opened the request form. You can see all of the groups have been returned that include the word test, and the user can select from that. Then I'm going to come down to the justification. So I'll input exactly why I need that as part of this request. So I'm just going to add my user to a group because it's for a demo. We'll click next. It shows me a summary before I click submit. Then I can click submit. Straight away it's returned me a service request number so that I can monitor that via my requests within the self-service portal. And it's also shown me that a service request has been created in Service Manager. Now, as the reviewer, I'm in my mailbox here, and you can see I've been notified by Service Manager that there's a review activity waiting my approval. I've just built a template here, a notification template that includes a link to take that reviewer across to the self-service portal so they can review that activity. I'll open that up, and then it'll give me some details about the review activity. So you can see all the review activities that I've had, but there's one in progress. It shows a description, which is the justification that the user entered when they loaded it up via the portal. I can open up the actual service request itself, but I'm just going to click approve, and I'm going to put a reason in there why I've approved that request. So I've saved that approval, and that's going to actually go and approve that step within the workflow. And the next step within the workflow is to kick off the runbook. So I'll open that up and show you exactly what the service request that was created looks like. So add my user to a group, you can see the ID. We'll open that up, and we'll go into the activities tab within the service request. And there'll be two activities. So there's a review activity, and then there's the runbook activity. So because we approved that review activity, you can see it's got a green tick. And the next one has just changed to play. So that means it's gone and the Orchestrator connector is connected to the Orchestrator web service and started that runbook for me. So I'll go across to Orchestrator and I'll show you it running. So here's our runbook. You'll see in the log it says it started and the time that it actually started running. And the activities as we work through them, it'll show them as they succeed. Then once it completes, it goes across to becomes available in the log history tab. We can double click on it and see all of the activities and their status based on the execution. So the runbook's completed. Now we can actually go and check in AD to make sure that it worked. Go to members and our user will be in that group now. Now the user that actually created the request should get notified to say, hey, your service request is complete and here is the status. So we've just had an alert email come through. You can see your service request, add my user to a group, is complete now, and I've put some details into that notification as well. So I'll have a look in Service Manager now and just show you that the service request has completed. So we're in completed service request view. I'll scroll down and you'll see add my user to a group has now successfully completed. So if you think about that, there's some real power and value to be gained by your organisation building these service catalogue, building these request offerings so that users can actually request a number of these services by themselves. They don't have to come to IT or call IT to do these simple tasks anymore. You can automate them. So let's have a quick talk about reporting and dashboarding capabilities, because you need to be able to deliver business intelligence, and that's delivered via the data warehouse. There's a number of standard reports included out of the box, but it's built on top of SQL reporting services, so you can build additional SQL services, reporting services reports, and a number of the features that you're used to, things like being able to schedule your reports and automatically have them emailed out, automatically have them saved to a file system, is still available with 2012 as well, and all of the System Center products, in fact. There's a Service Manager Dashboard Solution Accelerator, so you can make data sets available to your users via the Service Manager dashboards. And I get asked this every time. You'll notice that the Service Manager 2010 logo is still in that report, because all of this demo and this complete presentation was built on the release candidate and they hadn't updated that. So finally, the System Center Data Warehouse, when we're talking about the data warehouse, this is really powerful and it's a new addition to 2012. How many people have what they would class as an enterprise data warehouse deployed? One. For those that don't understand exactly what an enterprise data warehouse can deliver you, an enterprise data warehouse is a single data warehouse that pulls data from multiple data sources back into a single location so that you can run enterprise reports. Because you've got all of these separate products that have all of their own reporting engine, but you can't build these single reports that connect to all of these data sources. System Center 2012 via Service Manager delivers you that capability. So it's an enterprise data warehouse for System Center. It can pull data from Service Manager, Ops Manager, and Config Manager back into the one database. But that's not enterprise, right? System Center is not everything. You can connect to multiple data sources as well. So you can build these data source connections within Service Manager to connect to systems like SAP or HR. Anything that supports a data source connection, we can pull data from that back into this central data warehouse. And it's got OLAP cubes for reporting, and this is where it gets really powerful, because reports that I would typically have to author using SQL reporting services, if we wanted to get something powerful, with charts or a lot of different data, it's going to take 4 to 5 hours to build a complex report. I can knock these reports out in products like Excel using the OLAP cubes, connected to the data contained within Service Manager in 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll show you how easy that is in the demo. It's powered by the System Center Management Pack model, so if you've got an understanding of the Management Pack model, it's going to make it easier, but it is pretty intuitive. So if you're working through the OLAP cube, connecting to the OLAP cubes and working through the data, you will be able to navigate it pretty easily. And of course, you don't have to use the reporting services now. So you can build these powerful reports through Excel. So other users in your environment can start to build their own reports. You're not relying on your DBAs. So let's have a look at the System Center Data Warehouse. So I'm in the Data Warehouse workspace in the Service Manager console, and you can see a number of OLAP cubes that are available out of the box. Now, you're not limited to these OLAP cubes, because as you bring in additional data from other data sources, you're going to need an OLAP cube to access that data. So new OLAP cubes can be easily created and added in. We've got a data sources view where we can create those connections to other data sources in our environment, get that data from SAP back into the System Center Data Warehouse so we can use it as part of reporting. So I'll select the Work Items cube, and this is the one I'm going to go and build an incident report to show us the count of incidents that we've got. When I first select it, it's going to go and connect to the cube. Now, if I was in Excel already, I could connect to the cube via Excel, or if I'm in the Service Manager console, I can click Analyze Cube in Excel, and it'll open Excel for me. Now, the first thing you'll note is it opens up a pivot table, so I can manipulate that data via the pivot table. I'm going to select the drop down. I'm going to go into the Incident Dim view, And I'm going to select incidents open, incidents active, and incidents resolved. And it's going to pop that data straight out onto my spreadsheet. So I'm going to change that. I'll add a few lines in there just to give me a bit of space. I want to give it a title. I want to put a logo in there as well. So I'll change the size of the font. I want to try and make this report look like a corporate report, not just something I've knocked out in Excel. We'll change the size of change the width of the cells as well so that it's not so crammed on there, because we've got plenty of real estate to work with. Now I want to actually go and get rid of the grid lines. So now, using the pivot chart, I can select that data and just go and quickly select the type of pivot chart that I want. So I want a bar graph, and it's going to dump that straight out onto my report for me. Anybody that's tried to do that using Report Builder or Visual Studio would know that that's time consuming to get that report populated with the right data and formatted the way we want. So what I'll do is I'm going to save that report. Now I'm going to save it to the file system on my machine. Now the folder that I've saved this in, I've already shared out so that I can access it via a UNC path. So incident count. Now what we want to do, we want to make that available to other users. So in the Service Manager data warehouse, I'm going to create a new analysis library. All I do is I click Add Library Folder, and because I've saved that report to the file system that's already shared, I can make that available. So I'll give it a title, and we'll call it Data 3 Custom Reports. We'll set up a UNC path. Click OK. Now that is available in the reporting workspace for all of my users that have access to the Service Manager console. So I'll jump across to the reporting workspace. There's that new folder that we just created, or analysis library. And there's the incident count report. Now I'm going to open it up. Now the power about this is that we can open it up and we can even slice and dice the data contained within that cube even further. So I'll come in and I'll select the data, because now I can see the incidents that are open. What happens if I want to know what classification category is set for those incidents? And I select the pivot table again. Now I'll go and say, I also want that broken down by classification category. And that's as simple as just going and ticking a box. So I'll find my incident classification. I'm going to tick incident classification. And now it's updated that report automatically for me. It's just something that you can't do with the native SQL reporting services feature that's in the current product. So the OLAP cubes add that power. If I had the permissions, I could save that back to the file system and update that for other users to use as well. So upgrading. There's only one person with the Parlous and one person with Service Manager, so this will be quick. Service Manager 2010, there's an in-place upgrade, but the key thing to note here is the web portal can't be upgraded. And that's because it's a completely rewritten portal. The old 2010 one was based on IIS. There was some web parts available for SharePoint, but this one is completely written around SharePoint 2010, and it's just a single web part, so you need to keep that in mind. If you've got a Parlous, it's a side-by-side migration, but what we do is we need to first of all import the integration packs, and then export and import your runbooks. But the key thing here is that the integration packs need to be the same version, or when you import the runbooks, the activities within the runbook will appear, but you won't be able to access the properties and you won't be able to run them. So you need to either delete those activities and add the activity from the latest runbook, or make sure you have the same version of the integration pack. Now our approach. Service Manager implementations can be complex. When we first decided that we were going to start deploying Service Manager, when Microsoft released it, we came up with this, the understanding that people need assistance when it comes to service management implementation. So we started the strategic consulting practice. There's a number of things that strategic consulting can help you with. Firstly, build your requirements to make sure your requirements are going to actually be able to be aligned to the technology that we want to implement. Help you with service definition or service catalog development. Help you with process definition and automation, but help you understand the value and the cost savings and the time savings that you will get via automation. But we also understand that many of you have complex and mature service management implementations, but you might just want to review. So you might be changing from your current service desk tool to Service Manager, and you just want us to review your current service management processes. And finally, we can help you with the business case.
Thank you for watching. We hope that you found value in the session. For more information about Data3 and our partners, go to www.data3.com.au/SC12. If you have any questions or wish to discuss your System Center 2012 deployment or upgrade, please do not hesitate to contact the Data3 team on 02 9081 9653.